I never thought I would be the type of guy to completely disappear from my wife's life without a word. But when I discovered Melissa's 6-month affair with her coworker, something in me just snapped. After 8 years of marriage, I packed my things while she was with him and vanished. What I did not expect was her complete public meltdown afterward, or the tidal wave of blame that came my way from friends and family. Everyone said I handled it wrong, but they had no idea what it feels like to have your entire reality shattered by betrayal. Before I reveal how I uncovered my wife's betrayal and why I vanished without a trace, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe if you believe sometimes silence speaks louder than confrontation. I met Melissa at my buddy Ryan's backyard barbecue 8 years ago. She walked in wearing a yellow sundress, laughing at something someone had said, and I could not take my eyes off her. Ryan introduced us, mentioning she had just gotten her real estate license and was new to his office. We talked for hours that night, long after most guests had left. By the end of the evening, I had her number and a date planned for the following weekend. Our romance moved quickly. Within 6 months, we were practically living together in my apartment. At the 1-year mark, I proposed during a weekend trip to Lake Tahoe. She cried happy tears and said it was the most perfect moment of her life. We were married in a medium-sized ceremony with about 100 guests, surrounded by friends and family who told us we were perfect for each other. The early years were everything I had hoped marriage would be. We bought a 3-bedroom house in a nice suburban neighborhood just outside Sacramento. Melissa's real estate career took off, and she began specializing in high-end properties. My construction management job kept me busy but provided us with a stable income and good benefits. We took annual vacations, usually to somewhere tropical, and filled our social media with photos that showed the world how happy we were. Looking back, the changes started about 2 years ago. They were subtle at first. Melissa began working later hours, saying the real estate market was hot and she needed to accommodate clients' schedules. She started dressing differently, investing in expensive clothes, and spending more time on her appearance. Her phone became an extension of her hand, and I often caught her smiling at text messages. When I would approach, she would quickly put the phone face down or close whatever app she was using. Just work stuff, she would say with a casual wave of her hand. You know how clients are these days, always needing immediate responses. I believed her because I wanted to, because after 8 years, trust was the foundation I thought we had built. Plus, I was distracted by my own career advancement. Our company had landed a major commercial development project, and I was put in charge of a significant portion. If I performed well, a promotion to senior project manager was practically guaranteed. The first concrete suspicion came 5 months ago when I was sorting through receipts for tax purposes. Among them was a dinner receipt from Giovanni's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. The bill was for 2 people and included 2 expensive bottles of wine. The date caught my attention immediately. It was from a Tuesday night when Melissa had texted saying she was showing houses until late and would grab something quick on the way home. "Oh, that was a client dinner," she explained when I casually mentioned it. "Potential buyers for the lakeside property. I forgot to submit it for my expense account." Her explanation made sense, but something in her tone felt off. After that, I started noticing more inconsistencies. The perfume she wore, some evenings when she came home late. The weekends she needed to catch up on paperwork at the office. How she would sometimes shower immediately upon returning home. Each incident on its own could be innocent, but together they formed a pattern I could no longer ignore. The confirmation came unexpectedly. Melissa had left for what she said was an early morning house showing, and I needed to check some tax documents we had stored on her laptop. When I opened it, her messaging app was still logged in, and a new message appeared from someone saved as Alex's office. "Last night was amazing. Cannot wait to see you again this afternoon. Same hotel." My blood ran cold as I scrolled up through their conversation history. The messages were explicit, detailing their encounters and the lies they told to cover them. Photos had been exchanged. Plans had been made. According to the timestamp of the first message, the affair had been going on for over 6 months. I sat there, for what felt like hours, reading through evidence of my wife's betrayal. Alex was a new agent at her office, a guy she had mentioned casually a few times, but always in a professional context. In their messages, they joked about me, about how oblivious I was, about how my long hours at the construction site gave them plenty of time together. For the next week, I said nothing. I pretended everything was normal while secretly gathering more information. I checked credit card statements and found hotel charges. I looked at our cell phone records and saw the pattern of calls and texts. I even installed a tracking app on her phone during one of her showers, which confirmed that her house showings often took place at a hotel near her office. The final nail in the coffin came when I called in sick one day and followed her. She told me she had 3 showings scheduled, but instead she drove directly to the Hyatt downtown. I watched from my truck as she valeted her car, and then 15 minutes later saw Alex arrive and enter through the same doors. I sat there for 30 minutes feeling something inside me harden into resolve. I had seen enough. I spent that night in a fog of emotions cycling between rage, heartbreak, and humiliation. At first I imagined confronting them both, picturing the scene in vivid detail, bursting into that hotel room, watching the shock on their faces, demanding answers. But what answers could possibly matter at this point? What explanation could ever make this betrayal acceptable? The next option was a standard divorce. Hire a lawyer, serve papers, endure months of negotiations, divide assets, tell all our friends and family, answer the same painful questions over and over. The thought exhausted me. Plus, it would give Melissa the opportunity to control the narrative, to paint herself as remorseful or me as unreasonable. That night, I called my law school friend James and outlined the situation. "You have grounds for an at-fault divorce with the evidence you have collected," he said. "But those can get messy and public. What exactly are you hoping for here?" "I want out," I replied simply. "I want to be done with the lies. I want her to understand the finality of what she has done." We talked through my options, and somewhere during that conversation, the plan began to form. I would disappear completely from Melissa's life. No confrontation, no chance for her to explain or manipulate. Just gone. "It is legal to leave your spouse," James confirmed. "But you will want to make sure you document the reason and eventually file official paperwork. Otherwise, things like debt and shared assets get complicated." Over the next 2 weeks, I methodically prepared. I rented a furnished apartment in Roseville, about 30 miles away, but still close enough to my work site. I opened a new bank account and transferred my portion of our savings, leaving her share untouched. I gathered important documents: birth certificate, social security card, car title, insurance information. I forwarded my mail to a post office box. I contacted my HR department and updated my information, explaining the situation in the most basic terms and requesting privacy. The day I chose to leave was deliberate. Melissa's text to Alex confirmed they would be meeting that afternoon. I waited until she left the house dressed, for what she told me was a big client meeting. I watched her car disappear down our street, and then I began. I worked efficiently, taking only what was undisputedly mine: clothes, personal items, the tools I had owned before our marriage, the watch my grandfather had left me. I left all the furniture, all the wedding gifts, all the vacation souvenirs. I took half of the physical cash we kept in our emergency fund. I removed my portion of our shared digital photo albums and documents. In our bedroom, I placed my wedding ring on her pillow, along with printed screenshots of her messages with Alex. No note, no explanation. The evidence spoke for itself. By 2 in the afternoon, my truck was packed with the carefully edited remains of my life. I took one last look around the house we had shared for 7 years, feeling a surprising lack of attachment to the space that had once represented our future. Then I removed my house key from my key ring, placed it on the kitchen counter, and walked out the front door. I drove directly to my new apartment, where I methodically unpacked my belongings into their new spaces. I sent brief texts to my parents and my closest friend Mark, informing them that my marriage was over due to Melissa's infidelity and that I had moved out. I asked for their discretion and promised more details later. Then I turned off my phone and sat in the strange silence of my new life. That first night alone was surreal. I ordered pizza, drank 3 beers, and stared at the unfamiliar ceiling above an unfamiliar bed. Questions plagued me. Was I being childish? Should I have confronted her? Would this decision seem cruel to others, who did not understand the depth of the betrayal? But underneath those doubts was a surprising sense of peace. For the first time in months, I was living honestly without the shadow of lies between us. The next morning, I went to work as usual, though nothing felt usual anymore. I bought a new phone with a new number, giving the contact information only to my parents Mark and my workplace. I met with a divorce attorney recommended by James and began the process of filing papers, using the evidence I had gathered to support an at-fault petition. She is going to be shocked, the attorney warned me. This approach is unconventional. Good, I replied. Shock seems appropriate given the circumstances. Melissa discovered I was gone that evening. According to Mark, who heard it from a mutual friend, she called my phone repeatedly, each call going straight to voicemail. She contacted several of our friends asking if they had seen me. Around midnight, she began posting on Facebook, first expressing concern about my unusual absence, then growing increasingly frantic. Has anyone heard from Blane? He is not answering calls or texts, and his clothes are gone. I am worried something happened. By the next day, her posts had taken on a different tone. I cannot believe Blane would just leave without talking to me. After 8 years of marriage, I deserve at least a conversation. This is so immature and hurtful. She had not mentioned finding the screenshots or my ring. She was controlling the narrative, presenting herself as the bewildered, abandoned wife. Friends began commenting, expressing concern for both of us, and offering to help locate me. I watched it all unfold from my new anonymous phone, saying nothing. 3 days after I left, Melissa's mother called my parents. My mother later told me that the conversation was tense. She demanded to know where you were, my mom reported. I told her you were safe, but that she should ask her daughter why you might have left. She acted like she had no idea. A week into my disappearance, Melissa's posts escalated. She claimed I might be having a mental health crisis, suggesting my work stress had caused some kind of breakdown. She publicly worried about my safety, even while privately sending me angry emails, accusing me of abandonment and cruelty. You could at least have the decency to face me like a man, one email read. This silent treatment is pathetic and childish. I forwarded each message to my attorney without responding. The police wellness check at my job site was unexpected and humiliating. 2 officers approached me while I was reviewing plans with my crew, asking if I was Blane Anderson and if I was all right. My coworkers stared as I explained that, yes, I was fine. I had left my marriage voluntarily and my wife was aware of the reason why. The officers seemed satisfied with my explanation, but advised me to handle my personal affairs more directly. That same day, Melissa showed up at my parents' house unannounced. According to my father, she oscillated between tears and anger, demanding information about my whereabouts and claiming she had no idea why I would have left. When my father gently mentioned the evidence I had found, she changed tactics, minimizing the affair as just a mistake, and insisting that married couples should work through their problems together. Your son owes me a conversation, she reportedly told him. He cannot just throw away 8 years because of one indiscretion. The social pressure intensified as mutual friends began reaching out to me on my new phone number, which had apparently been shared despite my requests for privacy. The messages followed a pattern. I understand you are hurt, but this is not the way to handle it. You two need to sit down and talk this out. Everyone makes mistakes, Blane. This ghosting thing is really cruel. I expected better from you. Even Mark, who had initially supported me, began questioning my approach. I get why you left, man, he said during a rare in-person visit to my new apartment. But people are talking, and the story out there is making you look bad. Melissa is telling everyone the affair was a one-time thing that she deeply regrets, and you are refusing to even hear her apology. It was not a one-time thing, I replied, showing him some of the evidence I had collected. It was 6 months of lies at minimum. He winced at the messages. Okay, that is pretty damning. But still, the way you left was the only way I could maintain my sanity. I finished for him. Melissa's parents escalated the situation by threatening legal action for marital abandonment. A threat my attorney assured me was legally baseless, but nonetheless stressful. Their angry voicemails and emails became so frequent that I had to block their contacts. The crowning moment of Melissa's public meltdown came at a birthday party for our mutual friend, Jenna. I had declined the invitation for obvious reasons, but Melissa attended, apparently expecting me to be there. According to several witnesses, when she realized I was not coming, she began drinking heavily, and eventually broke down, sobbing about how I had ruined our lives by involving lawyers instead of working things out privately. She completely lost it, Jenna told me afterward. She was screaming that you had no right to expose her private messages, that you had violated her privacy, that you were trying to destroy her reputation. It was uncomfortable for everyone. The irony of Melissa complaining about privacy violations while she had been secretly cheating for months was apparently lost on her. Even more surprising was how many people seemed to agree with her perspective. My inbox filled with messages from former friends calling me vindictive, immature, and cruel for how I had handled the situation. The harassment escalated to calls from unknown numbers, social media messages, from strangers who had only heard Melissa's version of events, and even a few uncomfortable encounters in public places, where mutual acquaintances would either ignore me completely or approach to deliver lectures about forgiveness and maturity. Through it all, I maintained my silence, letting the divorce proceedings move forward through my attorney. But I could not deny that the constant criticism and social pressure were taking their toll. There were nights I lay awake, wondering if everyone was right, if I had chosen the most destructive path possible out of pure hurt and anger. Should I have just confronted her? I asked my therapist, whom I had begun seeing weekly. Would that have been the adult thing to do? There is no perfect way to respond to betrayal, she replied. You chose the path that protected your emotional well-being during an extremely traumatic discovery. That was your right. Still, as the weeks passed and the backlash continued, I began to question whether the cost of my silence had been too high. The turning point came from an unexpected source. Nearly 2 months after I left, Alex's longtime girlfriend Tara discovered the affair through messages on his computer. Unlike me, Tara chose a very public confrontation, tagging both Alex and Melissa in social media posts that included screenshots of their conversations, including several that I had not seen in my own investigation. These messages revealed an even deeper betrayal than I had realized. Melissa and Alex had been planning a future together, discussing how they would eventually tell me and Tara, speculating about how much money they could extract from our respective relationships before making their big reveal. Poor Blane will probably give me whatever I ask for, just to avoid conflict, Melissa had written. He always does. Overnight, the narrative shifted. People who had been criticizing me for weeks suddenly went silent or reached out with awkward apologies. Friends who had taken Melissa's side began distancing themselves from her. Mutual acquaintances sent me private messages expressing shock at the extent of the deception and acknowledging that perhaps my approach had been justified after all. I had no idea it was that calculated, wrote Jenna. I thought it was a one-time mistake she was truly sorry for. I should have asked for your side before judging. Melissa's public image collapsed under the weight of the full truth. Her social media accounts went suddenly private, and according to mutual friends, she stopped attending social events altogether. Her mother stopped calling my parents. The anonymous harassment calls ceased. Through all of this, I maintained my policy of no direct contact with Melissa. All communication went through our respective attorneys. The divorce proceedings continued now, with even stronger evidence supporting my claims. The property division was straightforward. We sold the house and split the proceeds, divided our savings according to the prenuptial agreement we had signed years ago, and each kept our own retirement accounts. Melissa made one last attempt at direct contact, a week before our divorce was to be finalized. She showed up at my apartment building one evening, somehow having obtained my address. "Please, Blane, can we just talk?" she called through the door when I refused to open it. I made terrible mistakes, but we could still work this out. 8 years together has to count for something. I said nothing, and eventually she left. The next day, I received an email from her personal account, rather than through her lawyer. "I understand now why you left the way you did," she wrote. "I betrayed you in the worst possible way, and then I tried to make you the villain when you refused to let me control the situation. I am truly sorry, not just for the affair, but for how I responded when you found out. You deserved better than what I gave you in our marriage, and after." It was the first genuine acknowledgement I had heard from her, but it came far too late. I did not respond, but I did forward it to my therapist as a topic for our next session. In the months that followed, I gradually rebuilt my life. The promotion at work came through bringing new responsibilities and challenges that kept me productively occupied. I maintained my new apartment but spent weekends exploring hiking trails in the Sierra Nevada mountains, something Melissa had always refused to do with me. I reconnected with friends from before my marriage and slowly built a new social circle separate from our old one. Throughout this process, I learned which relationships were genuine. My parents stood by me without question. Mark, after his initial doubts, became my strongest supporter. A few other friends proved their loyalty by defending me even when it was unpopular to do so. These connections grew stronger through the adversity, while superficial friendships fell away. The opportunity to move to Denver for a specialized project came almost exactly 1 year after I had left Melissa. It felt like perfect timing, a chance for a fresh start in a new city. My company offered a substantial salary increase and relocation package, and the project itself was exactly the kind of challenge I had been hoping for. I accepted without hesitation. In Denver, freed from the weight of old associations and painful memories, I found myself enjoying life again. I bought a small house with a view of the mountains. I adopted a rescue dog named Cooper, who became my constant companion on weekend hikes. I joined a rock climbing gym and made new friends who knew nothing of my past. 6 months into my new life in Colorado, I met Lauren through a mutual friend at a dinner party. She was a civil engineer with a quick wit and a genuine smile. Our first date was a hike followed by coffee where conversation flowed easily for hours. I was transparent about my divorce, sharing the basic facts without drama or bitterness. She appreciated my honesty and shared her own experience with a college boyfriend who had betrayed her trust. It teaches you a lot about what you will and will not accept in relationships going forward, she said, understanding in a way only someone who has experienced betrayal can. We have been dating for 4 months now, taking things slowly and communicating openly. The lessons from my marriage serve as guardrails rather than roadblocks, helping me build something healthier than what came before. Looking back on the entire experience now, I stand by my decision to leave the way I did. In the face of such calculated betrayal, protecting my own emotional well-being had to be my priority. The social backlash was painful but temporary, while the self-respect I maintained by refusing to engage in Melissa's manipulative drama has been permanent and healing. I have learned that forgiveness does not require reconciliation. I have forgiven Melissa not for her benefit but for my own peace of mind. The anger that once consumed me has faded, leaving behind valuable wisdom about trust boundaries and self-worth. Most importantly, I discovered that sometimes the most courageous response to betrayal is not a confrontation, but a clean break, a silent refusal to participate in someone else's narrative. My ghosting was not an act of cowardice, but a powerful reclaiming of my own story. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice to protect your mental health, even when others did not understand? Share your experience in the comments section below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to support more real-life stories like this one. And if you know someone struggling with betrayal or difficult decisions, share this video with them. It might give them the perspective and courage they need during a challenging time. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember that prioritizing your own well-being is never something you should apologize for, even when others try to make you the villain in their story.